What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Move Rewind. Welcome to our annual summer special, and today I've decided to do a tier ranking of the series of Doctor Who. Now, a few disclaimers before we get into this ranking. Firstly, I'm only including series of the modern era since the show's revival in 2005. And the reasons for that is I've never really gotten into classic Doctor Who. Now, since the start of the year, I've started to dip into it. But any opinions I have on those series, I just don't think it's valid because I haven't really been that invested in classic Doctor Who. So only expect modern series of Doctor Who in this ranking. Secondly, I'm biased. You know, this ranking, it's going to be impacted by nostalgia. You know, the first episode of Doctor Who I ever saw was Series 1, Episode 12, Bad Wolf, and I was about 4 years old at the time, so obviously nostalgia is going to have an impact, so please bear that in mind. And thirdly, I think it's important to actually say what for me is a good series of Doctor Who. Now, for me, a strong series of Doctor Who will have quality writing, and that's in terms of the series arc, as well as the quality of the individual episodes. It will have strong acting from the individual portraying the Doctor, as well as those who are cast as the companions. And thirdly, it's the rewatchability of a series, because a series isn't very good if you have no intention of going back to rewatch it. And obviously, S tier is an outstanding series of Doctor Who, a series I can find very little flaws with. F tier would be an abomination for Doctor Who, which I think is actually an insult to what Doctor Who stands for as a show. So now that all of that is out of the way, let's get on with this ranking. So we start off with Series 1. You know, Series 1, I think every Doctor Who fan should have a lot of respect for Series 1 because it is the one that brought the show back from the dead. You know, it is still, even to this day, a really well-made series. I mean, Christopher Eccleston, he only has 13 episodes to create an iconic incarnation of the Doctor, and he does it. The Ninth Doctor is a very dark Doctor. He's a traumatized incarnation because of the Time War. And it's actually, his Doctor has a great deal of development throughout the series. At the start of the series, he's very dark. You know, he's clearly traumatized. By the end of the series, he's come to accept that the Time War has happened, and he actually sacrifices his life to save just one single human being. So it creates quite an iconic incarnation, as well as a heroic incarnation in just 13 episodes. Billie Piper, she's brilliant as Rose Tyler. Rose is a very down-to-earth companion. I would say the archetype of the modern Doctor Who companion. She's very grounded, she's relatable, and she also grows as a person during this series. Throughout the 13 episodes, we start to learn more about Rose's life and why she is the person she is. In terms of the episodes, I would say Series 1 is a great example of how to do a series arc, because every episode feels like it connects to the final conclusion of this series. You know, the idea of having Bad Wolf being a phrase which is heard throughout most of the episodes in this series was a great idea, because obviously you want to learn more about who Bad Wolf is. And the actual series story arc about the Daleks returning and the Doctor finding out that he sacrificed Gallifrey for nothing, I think was a really good series arc, and also made Rose quite an important character as well when she saves the day. So for me, Series 1, it goes in the A tier, because even to this very day, it's a very strong series. The reason I haven't included it in S tier, because I would say it does play it safe in terms of being mostly Earth focused. The majority of the episodes are either set on Earth or space stations directly near Earth. So I just think that in terms of scope, yes, it's playing it safe, but then it's the first series, so you've got to keep that in mind. Next, we have Series 2, and it all could have ended with Series 2 because Christopher Eccleston decided to depart after just one series. But then you bring in the energetic and lovable David Tennant, who was iconic right from the first moment. He strolled out of that TARDIS saying, "Do you miss me?" And I think that's when it was sold in that one line. This was the new Doctor. But in all seriousness, the 10th Doctor is great. He creates an iconic incarnation throughout Series 2. I really enjoy the chemistry between the Doctor and Rose. I know some people are a bit divided on it. They say it's too cheesy. And yes, it is a bit cheesy, but I can't help but enjoy it. You know, Series 2 was the first full series of Doctor Who I ever saw. And for me, the 10th Doctor and Rose were the iconic, they were the iconic Doctor and companion team. I think where series 2 is a bit of a letdown is the consistency of the episodes, because some are really strong. You have the Impossible Planet, you have the Satan's Pit, you have the Cybermen 2-part, which reintroduces the Cybermen really well, and obviously you have the series finale, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday, and that final scene in Doomsday when Rose has to say goodbye to the Doctor, I tear up to this very day. It's such a wonderfully acted and written scene, and it's just beautiful to behold on screen. But then you've got other episodes which I would say are filler episodes. You have Love and Monsters. You have Fear Her. These are episodes which feel like they're just there to make up the episode count. They don't really add much to the series. So because of that, I'm going to put Series 2 in the B tier. Because I say it's not as consistent in terms of episodes as Series 1, even though I really enjoy the 10th Doctor and Rose. Next, we have Series 3. Series 3, David Tennant's second series as the 10th Doctor. And once again, he's great in this series. If anything, he's probably a bit better. I like the Doctor's development in this series in the sense that he's trying to get over Rose. Rose had a significant impact on the 10th Doctor's incarnation. So now that she's no longer in his life, you can see that he's mourning her and trying to get on with his life throughout the majority of these episodes. Freema Agyeman is great as new companion Martha Jones. For the first couple of episodes, Martha does come across as just Rose 2.0. But as the series goes on, you can see the differences between Rose and Martha. And Martha actually becomes a very strong companion by the end of this series. By the end of this series, she's now fully confident in herself. And she actually chooses to leave the Doctor on her own accord because she just doesn't want to travel with him anymore. So I think that was great what they did with Martha. I really enjoy the series arc in this series. You have the Harold Saxon phrase, and then you find out that Saxon is actually the Master, which I think was really well done. That final 3-parter, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords, the first 2 parts are really strong. Last of the Time Lords left a little to be desired, but I don't think that takes away from the overall series. And some of the episodes in this series, they're iconic. I mean, they're quality Doctor Who. You have the Family of Blood 2-parter, you have Blink in there. You have really strong episodes in this series. So I'm going to give Series 3 in the A tier because I think it does make a lot of improvements on Series 2 in terms of the consistency and overall quality of the episodes. Next, we have Series 4. And Series 4 was definitely the golden age of Doctor Who. I was in junior school at the time, and everyone was talking about Doctor Who. Everyone was watching it on a Saturday night. So Doctor Who was definitely in its prime in Series 4. And you can understand why. The quality of the writing in Series 4 is a 10 out of 10. I can't think of a single bad episode in Series 4. And you have more light-hearted, comedic episodes like Partners in Crime or The Unicorn and the Wasp. And then you have more serious and emotional episodes like Fires of Pompeii, Planet of the Ood, and then you have more suspenseful and horror type episodes like Midnight. So you have a lot of really unique episodes in Series 4 which are really strong. The Doctor is great. David Tennant once again giving great performances throughout Series 4. New companion Donna Noble portrayed by a returning Catherine Tate. And the Doctor and Donna, while the Doctor and Rose will always be for me the iconic Doctor and companion team, I can't lie that the Doctor and Donna are the best. I like the fact that it's not another romantic relationship. They're more like best friends. And I just think they work together. I think the 10th Doctor needed someone who was just as strong as he is to kind of stand up to him and not just fall in line, because I'd say Martha from time to time did kind of fall in line. Donna is prepared to stand up to the Doctor, and I think that works really well. Plus, I really enjoy Donna's family. You've got Wilf there, you've got Sylvia. They're a great family for Donna, and they really ground her as a companion. I also love the series arc for Series 4, with the return of Rose, which is great, but you also have Martha, you have Captain Jack, you have Sarah Jane. Basically, Series 4, especially the concluding 2-parter, did Infinity War before Infinity War was cool. It was a great crossover. I think, the hype for Doctor Who at that time was just, if you weren't there, then you won't really remember what it was like, but the hype for Doctor Who at that time was on another level. And it's just great that the quality of this series really lived up to that height. So Series 4 is the first one to go in the S tier, because Series 4, for me, if you've never seen Doctor Who, I would say watch Series 4, because you'll be won over. I guarantee it. Next, we have the Tennant specials, which ran from 2008 to 2010. You know, if you spoke to me a couple of years ago, I'd probably put it in the S tier. But as the years have gone on, I've realised that they're a mixed bag. There's some great episodes in it, but there's also some underwhelming ones. The Next Doctor, fairly underwhelming Christmas special. I like David Morrissey. You know, he's a great actor. He's a great addition to Doctor Who. And you do have the Return of the Cybermen, but I just feel like it's a bit bland. You know, you have this giant Cyberman in trampling London, and I just think that's a bit too Power Rangers for me. So I always thought that the Next Doctor was a bit underwhelming. Planet of the Dead, underrated. A lot of people hate Planet of the Dead. I really enjoy it. I think it's an interesting concept. I like the location filming that they did for it. Plus, I also like Christina as a companion. You know, I think she could have actually been a full-time companion. She has great potential there. And Michelle Ryan clearly shares a lot of chemistry with David Tennant on screen, which makes that dynamic work. The Waters of Mars, one of the greatest Doctor Who episodes of all time. It's dark, it's scary, and it's also thought-provoking because the Doctor behaves like we've never seen the Doctor behave before. You actually question the Doctor's motives, and in some sense you could say by the end of the episode he's kind of the villain of the piece, because he's the one changing history just to fit his own ego. So the Waters of Mars was a great episode. And then you have The End of Time. Now the plot of The End of Time is a bit of a mess, and I like some things in it. You know, I love Bernard Cribbins as Wilf, he's great. John Simmers the Master is great. David Tennant, of course, as the Doctor is amazing. But in terms of the plot, I do find it's a bit of a mess. I enjoy the return of Gallifrey. You know, that's something that's been building up throughout the Russell T Davies era of Doctor Who. So it's great that they finally, we get the conclusion to that. And obviously I love the last 20 minutes. Some people might say it's self-indulgent, but you kind of expect it in a Doctor's final story. You know, it is a bit self-indulgent because it is the end of an era, and it weren't just the end for David Tennant, it was also the end for Russell T Davies as showrunner. But it is a bit of a mess, and I can't hide away from that. So the Tennant specials, some of the episodes I really enjoy, but others I think are a bit underwhelming and a little bit of a mess. So I'm going to put the specials in the B tier, because I think it's good, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's anything outstanding like Series 4 was. Next we have Series 5, and oh my god, how we were all so nervous when Series 5 came out. I mean, the BBC were even thinking of cancelling Doctor Who, because they didn't think that the show could survive without David Tennant and Russell T Davies. And my god, did new showrunner Stephen Moffat prove them wrong. I mean, firstly, Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor is perfection. It's a very complex incarnation. He seems quite light-hearted and quite jolly, but then you see that he's actually the master manipulator, and I think in Series 5, more than any other of his series, you really do get the sense that you don't know who this character is. Really, the Who in Doctor Who, if you want to get quite cheesy about it. Karen Gillan as new companion, Amy Pond, a breath of fresh air. I really enjoy Amy. She's a very fiery character, a very headstrong character, but also one who does develop as the series goes on. I like the fact that she's running away from her wedding to Rory because she doesn't want to grow up. It's almost like a kid running away. And I think that's because this series is a fairy tale. Stephen Moffat has made clear that Series 5 was heavily inspired by fairy tales. And it makes sense because this is a young woman running away from her problems. She's running off with her imaginary friend on a numerous adventures just to escape the realities of adult life. And I think that was a great idea. Some of the individual episodes in Series 5 are, of course, iconic. You know, you have Amy's choice in there. You have the 11th Hour, which is a great introduction to the 11th Doctor. Probably my favourite First Doctor story of all time. And you also have the series arc, which is very strong. And I would say Series 5 is the first series since Series 1 where every single episode feels like it connects to the series arc. I don't think you could watch the conclusions of Series 5 without having to see every single episode of the series, which is great because obviously rewatchability is very strong with this series. You want to rewatch it to figure out more of the puzzle and, see the hints to the series arc come and go. So Series 5 for me, it's the S tier. It breathed new life into the show when I think many people, including the BBC, thought Doctor Who was way past its prime, and it proved that the show could continue under new leadership and with a new actor in the role. Series 6. Now, Series 6 for me, I have mixed feelings about. Because some of the individual episodes in Series 6 are very strong. I mean, you have the God Complex in there. I've always been a fan of Night Terrors. You have The Girl Who Waited. You have the opening two-parter. So there are some really strong episodes in Series 6. Where Series 6 goes wrong is with the very confusing series arc. Now, the concept of the Doctor dying is a really interesting concept. You've got people on the edge of their seats with that one because everyone's trying to figure out how the Doctor's going to get himself out of this. But I feel like the concept was thought of before the actual solution to the problem was. I feel like Moffat, he wanted to do the Doctor dies, but he didn't really know how to conclude that arc in a meaningful way. And I think that's where Series 6 goes wrong. It's very series arc heavy, and I think that is a problem. It just got a bit too confusing. And I can understand, because Series 5, the series arc was very strong. Moffat obviously knew that people enjoyed series arcs, so he wanted to do another one even better. I just think he went a bit too far. He was a bit too ambitious with Series 6. And especially, you left yourself one episode to conclude all of those loose threads, and I just don't think he left himself enough time. Even a fantastic writer like Moffat, he can't do the impossible. And I think with Series 6, he was trying to do the impossible. Saying that, though, I really like the Doctor, Amy and Rory. It's a great three-way TARDIS team, and I think it works really well. You feel like you know all of these characters. Not one is left out to dry, if that makes sense. You get to know all these characters. They're very well developed. Plus, I also enjoy River Song. I think she works really well in Series 6 as you see her more as well. So for me, Series 6, it has decent episodes. It's got a good TARDIS team, but it's the series arc which lets it down. So I'm going to put Series 6 in the C tier because it was just a little bit disappointing for me. Series 7. Now, I've never really been a fan of Series 7, and that's for a couple of reasons. Firstly, that complex Doctor we got in Series 5 is kind of gone by Series 7. He's very much just kind of this goofy incarnation. And while I can't fault Matt Smith as an actor, he definitely knows how to bring the 11th Doctor to life. I would say that the 11th Doctor is quite goofy and underwhelming in Series 7. Now, Series 7 is split into two parts, like Series 6 was, but you really do feel that these are two different series. Part A is pretty lackluster. Amy and Rory should have left at the end of Series 6, in my opinion. Even though their departure in The Angels Take Manhattan is good, it doesn't take away from the fact that the first part of Series 7 is underwhelming. Part B does get a lot better. You have more consistent episodes, and you also have a fresh companion in the form of Clara. I'm not a massive fan of the Impossible Girl series arc because I think it makes Clara a bit too important, and her now being a part of Doctor Who's 50-year history in terms of showing up all over the place, I just think it was a bad idea for a companion that early in her tenure on the show to become that important. Saying that, though, I really do like the 11th Doctor and Clara together. I think they work really well together. So for me, Series 7 is a mixed bag. I feel like it's a series without much direction. I think Moffat was paying too much attention to the 50th anniversary rather than paying attention to Series 7. So I'm going to put Series 7 in the D tier because I think it's the first proper Doctor Who series I can properly say I was disappointed with. Next we have the 2013 specials, which is of course the 50th anniversary and Matt Smith's final episode as the 11th Doctor. The 50th anniversary is great. Moffat pulls it off. It's a great multi-Doctor story which celebrates the show's history. I think focusing it on Gallifrey and trying to rescue Gallifrey was a really great idea. Matt Smith, David Tennant and John Hurt, they're great as their respective Doctors, particularly John Hurt, because he only has this episode to convince you that he is the Doctor. And he does it. For me, the War Doctor is a bridge between classic era Doctors and modern era Doctors, and I think he does it very well. I really enjoyed the 11th Doctor and 10th Doctor together. They're quite similar characters, but you can tell there are differences as well, and I like their bickering throughout this special. A lot of the good stuff in this special is just the interaction between different incarnations of the Doctor, because it's something in modern Doctor Who we've never seen before. Who knows if we'll see it again? I hope so, but that was really special to see on screen. And then we have Matt Smith's final episode, The Time of the Doctor. Now, is The Time of the Doctor self-indulgent? Yes. But does it celebrate Matt Smith's era? Of course it does. It's not trying to do anything thought-provoking. It's just having fun. It's celebrating the 11th Doctor, and it's giving him the send-off that he deserves. I like the 11th Doctor goes out being a hero, and I also enjoy how it touches on the aspects of regeneration which some people might not know about. The fact that the Doctor has a limited number of lives, and he honestly thinks that this is his final life. You know, he will die at the end of this. Plus, you cannot fault the final 10 minutes of this episode when the 11th Doctor says farewell to Clara, and we get the cameo from Amy Pond. Beautiful send-off. The best regeneration scene, I would say, because it's not only the Doctor saying goodbye, you can tell that it's Matt Smith saying goodbye as well. So yeah, I can't really fault these specials. They are very, very strong. I'm going to put them in the A tier. The reason they're not in S tier is probably because they are a bit triumphant at times, and I think they rely more on the spectacle of them rather than actually the quality of the writing. But that's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, that is not a bad thing whatsoever. I just don't think the writing is up to the quality of S tier. Next we have Series A, and Series A, my god, what a breath of fresh air Series 8 was. I was concerned that Moffat was staying past the 50th. I thought he would have been burnt out. But my god, did he have renewed energy. Peter Capaldi is great as the 12th Doctor. Such a dark and complex incarnation which really makes you question this character. You know, and that's something which Doctor Who has done before, like in The Waters of Mars, but not for an entire series. And this entire series is based around whether the Doctor is a good man. You know, could there be something wrong with this incarnation? And I just think it's great how they deal with the 12th Doctor in this series. Jenna Coleman is better in Series 8 than she was in Series 7. And I think that's because they ground Clara. You know, they give her a job in the present day. They give her a love interest in the form of Danny. So you can start relating to this character. I feel like in Series 7 you couldn't really relate to Clara that much. In Series 8 you can relate to her very well. So I think that worked a lot better. Plus the 12th Doctor and Clara, they do have a good dynamic between them. The series arc is very strong. You know, Missy being revealed as the Master, I still remember that revelation to this day. It was great. You know, it was an epic revelation. And Michelle Gomez, you can't fault Michelle Gomez. She's awesome in the role of Missy. She made that role her own. Most of the episodes in this series are darker, and I would say they're more compelling than previous series. You know, you have The Mummy on the Orient Express, you have Flatline, you have Time Heist, which I think is a very underrated episode. You have Deep Breath, you have the finale. You know, you have great episodes in this series, but they're all just that tad bit darker than what came before. And I think that's refreshing. You know, Series 8 is a darker series. It's a more thought-provoking series. It has more complex characters. But that's all the more refreshing. You know, Doctor Who needed a radical change in direction in its 51st year. And Series 8 provided that. So I'm going to put Series 8 in the S tier. There's only one episode that I can say I don't like from Series 8. But everything else is a 10 out of 10. So it has to go in the S tier. Next we have Series 9. Oh, I was expecting so much more from Series 9, and we didn't get it, in my opinion. The 12th Doctor has a complete personality change in Series 9. He's a lot more goofy in Series 9 than he was in Series 8. He's a lot more like the 11th Doctor, actually, and I think that's my problem with it, because I wanted more of that Series 8 12th Doctor. I wanted a more complex incarnation. Not to say Capaldi's a bad actor, you know, he does what he can with the material he is given, and some of the episodes in Series 9 are very strong. You know, you have the Zygon 2-parter, you have Under the Lake and Before the Flood, You know, you have Face the Raven, and of course you have Heaven Sent, which is such a fantastic episode. Phenomenal performance by Peter Capaldi in that episode. But then you do have bad episodes as well. You know, you have the opening Dalek two-parter, which I've never really been a fan of. You have The Girl Who Dies, The Woman Who Lives. You have Hell Bent, which is a really bad finale, because you just had Clara killed off in a very meaningful way in Face the Raven, and then you bring her back again, and it's just like, what are you doing, Moffat? Can't you just let certain characters die in a meaningful way? And then you have Sleep No More, which is basically a gimmick, you know, and it just doesn't work. I get what they were doing with the found footage idea. It's an interesting idea, but it's just not a good episode. So yeah, for me, the main problem with Series 9 is Clara. She's way too arrogant in this series, and I get what they were doing. They were trying to show that Clara's arrogance is a problem, and it's eventually what leads to her comeuppance, because she's just acting far too reckless, just like the Doctor. My problem with it is that if you make a character really arrogant and unlikable, be prepared for the audience to find the character arrogant and quite unlikable. And that is my problem with Clara. I think she becomes way too powerful in this series. She should have left, because I think all that needs to be said about Clara's character has been said by Series 9. And that's not to say Jenna Coleman is a bad actor. She does her best with the material she's got, much like Capaldi. But I can't lie, Series 9 was a massive letdown compared to Series 8. Some of the episodes in this are terrible. The series arc with the hybrid stuff, yeah, I still don't really know what the hybrid is. So yeah, I'm going to give Series 9 in the D tier, because compared to Series 8, it was a massive letdown. Series 10. Now I have an interesting story about Series 10, because obviously Doctor Who took a year break, and Series 10 was released in 2017. And honestly, this was Doctor Who's final chance for me. For the simple reason, after Series 9 and how disappointed I was prepared to walk away from Doctor Who altogether. I just thought, well, maybe, you know, the show's not for me anymore. Maybe I need to move on. But I said, I'll watch Series 10. You know, it's the final series overseen by Stephen Moffat. And, you know, Peter Capaldi is a great actor. And I really enjoyed the 12th Doctor. And I was blown away, because Series 10 is the back to basics approach which Doctor Who needed at that time. It feels so refreshing. Everything feels like it's taken a break and it's come back going on all full cylinders. I really enjoy the 12th Doctor in this series. It's a good mould of the Series 8 Doctor and the Series 9 Doctor. And I also love Bill. Pearl Mackie, great actor. And Bill is such a breath of fresh air compared to Clara, a very down-to-earth companion, very relatable. I would actually say the most relatable companion since Rose. I honestly would make that statement, because Bill is just a normal person, you know, with a normal job, you know, just trying to get by in life. And she asks so many relatable questions, which obviously people are like, yeah, I'd ask that question if I was in the TARDIS as well. Matt Lucas as Nardole. I was unsure about Nardole when he was first introduced, but in Series 10 he won me over, and I really like the dynamic between the Doctor, Bill and Nardole. Three-way TARDIS teams are very difficult to do, but I think Series 10 is a prime example of how to do it well. And a lot of the episodes are of a high quality. I enjoy the majority of the episodes in Series 10. I'd say there's only 2 episodes in the series which I don't like. The majority I really enjoy. I also love the finale. World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls. It's dark. You know, you have Bill being converted into a Cyberman. You have the Cybermen going after a school where there are kids, and you have the 12th Doctor being gunned down by Cybermen and then having to blow himself up in order to defeat them. It's a very dark series finale, and considering that was supposed to be Capaldi's final episode, I would say that would have been a massive high to go out on. So Series 10, it was refreshing. Everyone had a problem with Stephen Moffat staying for Series 10, but you know what? He pulled it off. He showed what a great showrunner he was for Doctor Who, because he gave us something refreshing. You know, so Series 10, it goes in the A tier because it's a quality series of Doctor Who. Speaking of quality series of Doctor Who, we now have Series 11. Chris Chibnall came in with a bold vision for Doctor Who, and he failed. Series 11 is not refreshing. You know, it's not Series 5, it's not Series 8, it's not even Series 10. It doesn't do anything new, apart from introduce a female Doctor, which could have been a great idea. You know, I have no problem with the Doctor being portrayed by a woman. You know, I think, you know what, it could actually breathe new life into the show. But they don't write the 13th Doctor as a female character. They kind of write her as a male character. And I think that's where they went wrong. Not only that, Chris Chibnall is a terrible writer. The majority of his episodes in this series are anticlimactic. They're filled with cop-outs. You know, the sonic screwdriver is usually used, or the TARDIS is usually used in order to solve the day. And I think that's a massive problem I have with this series. You have 3 full-time companions introduced from episode 1. And my God, I hardly know anything about them by the end of this series. Put it this way, I know more about relatives of companions like Sylvia or Jackie than I do about these 3 companions. You know, Graham, he's probably the best one, but I think that's more to do with Bradley Walsh's performance. You have Ryan, you know, Ryan's a plank of wood, tossing coal. He doesn't give great performances in this series. And then you have Yaz, Mandip Gill. I think she's trying her best, but the scripts are just not giving her any attention whatsoever. So this series is overcrowded. It's got too many characters in it. And some of the episodes, you know, there's potential there. There is potential there in some of these episodes. But they just never go for it. They just create 10 bland episodes. And I think if I could say anything to Chris Chibnall, it's the fact that you came into Doctor Who and you sacked every single writer who had previously worked for the programme. People who had made their careers writing quality Doctor Who, and you got rid of them because you couldn't handle it. You couldn't handle someone being in the room who is better at writing for the programme than you. And for that, you made a disgusting series. I mean, it really disgusts me. Series 11 is bad. It's one of the worst things of Doctor Who I've ever seen, so it goes in the F tier because it is a terrible series of Doctor Who, and I lay all of that blame on Chris Chibnall. Series 12. Now, I weren't expecting much from Series 12, but I have to say it does make a lot of improvements on Series 11. The 13th Doctor, she's a lot more consistent in this series. I start to actually understand this incarnation and what this character actually stands for. The companions, they're a bit better in Series 12. I mean, they're still kind of just there to help the plot progress, but at least you kind of understand who each of them are now. And some of the episodes in Series 12 are not half bad. You know, I really enjoy the opening 2-parter and a couple of other episodes in this series. But then other episodes, they're just not good at all. You know, you got Praxius, which is garbage. You know, you have episodes in this series which are just not good whatsoever. And then you have the Timeless Child series arc. Now, I've remained consistent on my criticism with the Timeless Child. I don't actually have anything against the idea that the reason the Time Lords can regenerate is because they performed experiments on a small child. I actually think that's a really good idea, because if the Doctor discovers that the reason she can regenerate is because crimes were committed against a child, it could add a layer of guilt to her incarnation, and also just another reason for her to distrust the Time Lords. My problem with it was making the Doctor the Timeless Child, for the simple reason the Doctor is relatable because they just woke up one morning and decided, you know, they didn't want to be part of the establishment. They wanted to go out and do some good. I think that's something that anyone can relate to. And plus, the reason the Doctor is an intriguing character is because we know very little about their personal history. You know, the show's called Doctor Who, and that's because we never really know who this character is, and that's what keeps them so interesting. That's why we keep viewing. By saying that, you know, this is the Doctor's origin story, it makes the character less interesting, because now we know a lot more than we should do about this character's origin. So Series 12, it does make some improvements on Series 11. I think the series arc lets it down, and some of the episodes aren't good. So that's why I'm going to put it in the E tier, because while it is an improvement, it's still not amazing. Next we have Series 13, Doctor Who Flux. You know, Flux is actually a really strong series. When you consider that it had to be filmed during COVID, with all the restrictions in place, you know, just the effort made in making this series, it should receive credit for that. I actually enjoy Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor in Series 13. I think she's a lot more consistent. Plus, I like the fact that it's just her and Yaz for a lot of this series. Yaz is a lot better in Series 13. I like the fact that she's left on her own from time to time. It gives us a chance to get to know what this character's learned and actually see her as an independent character. I also like Dan Lewis. I think he's a great introduction. Yes, he is the comic relief, but then Kevin Bishop is a comedian, and he's not bad. He does have some more emotional moments, so I don't mind Dan. I think he works well in the TARDIS team. My issue with Flux is Flux itself. Now, it's an interesting idea. It's unique, having a 6-part narrative with a consistent thing happening throughout every episode. But Flux gets very messy. And I think that's because you've only got 6 episodes. So Chibnall just doesn't have enough time to really end this storyline in a well thought out way. And I think that's my biggest issue with Flux. Flux is the most interesting thing about the series, but it's also the most inconsistent thing as well, which takes away from some of the other episodes. Saying that though, War for the Sontarans, The Village of the Angels, really strong episodes of Doctor Who. Actually episodes which I can say, I really enjoyed. It felt like Doctor Who again. So Series 13, I feel like people don't give it enough credit. I think after Series 11, Series 12, a lot of fans, especially some of those on YouTube, just were hating on Doctor Who for the sake of hating on it. And I don't think Series 13 deserves the hate it gets. So I'm going to put Series 13 in the C tier. Because compared to Series 11 and Series 12, it's actually a quality series of Doctor Who. It does have its problems, but you know what? I had fun while watching it. And next we have the 2022 specials, the final episodes containing Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor and Chris Chibnall as showrunner. And they're a mixed bag, much like their entire era. I enjoy Eve of the Daleks. Eve of the Daleks is a very unique episode. I think it's the only festive special which actually takes advantage of being set at the new year. It honestly does feel like, a new year type episode where everything's refreshed. Plus, I like how the Daleks are used in this episode. I think, give Chibnall his due. He was decent at writing for the Daleks, and he does a decent job with Eve of the Daleks. Then you have Legend of the Sea Devils, which is the biggest waste of time I've ever seen. No one wanted this special to be made. Chris Chibnall didn't want to make it. Jodie Whittaker didn't want to make it. The only reason it was made is because the BBC wanted something released in Easter, so they turned to Doctor Who. The Sea Devils, such a missed opportunity. Because given, how dominant climate change is in the world today, you could use the Sea Devils in a storyline like that. But instead, he just kind of uses them as pirates. I mean, this episode is like Doctor Who trying to be Pirates of the Caribbean and failing miserably. The choreography is all over the place in this episode. The music is way too loud. And they deal with the Doctor and Yaz, will they, won't they relationship. But unlike the Doctor and Rose, where it kind of actually felt like a proper relationship, the Doctor and Yaz kind of comes out of nowhere, because I don't think Chibnall had any intention of doing it. It was more a couple of fans who wanted it to happen. And then he kind of just says, yeah, I do like you, but I'm a Time Lord. That would never work. We've heard that before. We've seen that happen before. So that was a massive letdown. It's like, if you're going to do it. But don't tease it and then chicken out halfway through. And then you have the Power of the Doctor. Now, the Power of the Doctor to me was okay. In terms of story, it's an absolute mess. It is all over the place. There is way too much going on in the Power of the Doctor. It's very self-indulgent, but not really of the 13th Doctor's era. It's more self-indulgent of Doctor Who's entire nearly 60-year history. There's so many cameos in this episode, and I think that's what holds it together. It's a special which is held together on returning characters rather than a coherent story. And I think that's my biggest problem with that. I do enjoy the 13th Doctor's regeneration. I like the fact that she just has ice cream on top of the TARDIS with Yaz. It's something the Doctor would do. So I do like her regeneration, but it doesn't make up from the fact that the rest of the episode is just a complete mess. So for me, the 2022 specials, very mixed bag. Eve of the Daleks shows potential, but the other two, they're not very good. So I'm going to put the 22 specials in the E tier, because it's not F tier, you know, it's not an abomination, but it's not fantastic overall. So anyway, that is my tier ranking for Doctor Who. As I said before, it's heavily influenced by bias and nostalgia, but that is what I would say. Mostly, I've enjoyed it. I would say anything above a C tier, I really enjoy, and even a D tier is alright. Like, I can find good things. I'd say E and F tier are where I would struggle to rewatch them. So yeah, so for the most part, since its return in 2005, Doctor Who's been pretty consistent. You know, the majority of the series and specials are watchable. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. And I will see you in another one. See ya!